Rendez-vous sur quebec.ca/masque.
Main message that we want to is that in order for us to reopen business, in order for us to move towards a new normal, for the next year, until there's a vaccine, social distancing will be the main criteria that will ensure that we are safe and healthy. Social distancing is the one major criteria. So we talked about infection prevention control, hand washing, very important, all the adaptations that the businesses are going to put in place, equally important. But if we don't social distance when we move towards these phases of reopening, what INSPQ has estimated is that there will be an increase up to 150 deaths per day. So this morning I said per month, and that was a mistake. When I re-listened, I realized I made a mistake. 150 deaths per day by July. And so if just by removing that simple aspect of social distancing, we increase drastically the amount of death, possibility of death. So first off, that is of utmost importance. So I want to go back to Legault's decision to increase those social contacts and really to clarify a little bit about why he's making this decision. So one main reason is that 911 has been inundated with phone calls, and 911 is unable, because they keep getting phone calls of people complaining of gatherings happening around them in homes next door to them. They're unable to respond to real emergencies. And so place, which in fact are measures that still respect social distancing strategies. However, he's putting more responsibility on the community and the population to make those decisions for themselves. So the gathering of the families still requires social distancing. There's still nobody who's allowed in the house. And again, he's banking on the population's respect of the social distancing guideline to ensure that there's not going to be an increase of virus transmission as he reopens business and the economy on Monday. So at our task force, we are still having these debates. We are still looking at the pros and cons, and we can today, all we can say to you is that social distancing is of utmost importance, and because of that, we are still maintaining our request that we continue to respect that. We know, and we see it, we're not blind to this, we see it everywhere that, we're really on a scale here of people who are no longer respecting social distancing, who are continuing to gather, and then the other extreme where we're respecting the social distancing criteria 100% of the time. Of course, we spoke about this morning, and we've mentioned it often, that at some point there is an importance in every person taking responsibility for themselves, for the safety of their family. All of us, almost all of us, have either an elder living with us or an elder, someone over 60 or over 70 that we're very close to, and every decision that we make as an individual could have an impact on those people or on somebody who's immunosuppressed. So every decision we make should be made with the idea of social distancing in mind. That's the main message that I wanted to give to you today. We're going to continue to have these debates, but we're not ready to make a decision as Legault has done as of today. And we felt it important just to remind you of that one main criteria that will make a huge difference in the amount of cases that we have in our community and in the amount of death that we could potentially face in the future. So, thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Lisa. And just a couple of notes from what Lisa was saying. She mentioned that May 31st will be the date. That is a Sunday, and it's a week. It's about 10 days from now, so you have time.
Beautiful day, beautiful week in terms of the weather. Weekend is looking great, so wishing you all the best for the upcoming weekend. But what I'll start off by talking about is a concern that because the weather is nice, obviously a lot of people are going to want to get outside and enjoy the weather, which we certainly encourage people to do. But again, as Lisa mentioned, we want to make sure that physical distancing and social distancing remains. And one of the areas of concern, and the peacekeepers have received several calls already regarding the quarry. Large amounts of young people primarily going there, congregating in groups, enjoying, and I guess trying to enjoy the weather. But at the same time, it's an area that it's an activity that it's nearly impossible to social distance, and the peacekeepers have been called there many times to go there. They kind of separate themselves for a few minutes, but as soon as they leave, they're back together. So I would ask the people to please, remember, refrain from the social contact, and younger people especially. It may not impact you very directly, but just think about your parents, your grandparents who may get the virus, and it could be very deadly to our elders. So keep that in mind when you're going out and doing these things around the quarry. I would even go as far as say even try to refrain from there as much as you possibly can. And the peacekeepers are going to be vigilant. They are going to be around there. But you can't be someplace constantly 24/7, so to speak. So again, just keep that in mind. And it all comes down to the key word I've been saying all week about responsibility, which we all do have as individuals. Also, I just want to update on a couple of topics that we discussed this week. Obviously, the big discussion was in and around the planned opening of the businesses. Listening to what the business people are saying, and a lot of them are again positive feedback. And in terms of getting their business ready, I had to clarify a few points. Inspectors are out there doing an excellent job, and there's great cooperation. So I'm confident, when the green light is given, that we'll have a very successful opening, as long as we have that cooperation maintains the way it's going. This week as well, as you may have heard, the state of emergency for the community has been extended until June 21st. So that keeps the mandate of the task force intact. It keeps us operating under the same rules that we've been operating since March. So that has been extended again until June 21st. And at that point, as we approach June 21st, obviously we'll keep reassessing where we are as a community, what's happening around Ganawagit, and see if there's going to be a need to modify that, or do we have to look at another extension. But we'll take that day by day, week by week. But it was determined, given the current state that we are in, that the state of emergency had to be extended for another 30-day period. We also had a couple of issues that we addressed regarding some of the, I guess we'll call it interference from Quebec, different ministries, dealing with daycares and step-by-step, when they're trying to impose some of their rules on our local establishments, which again is not going to be the case in terms of openings or closures in the community. That's going to be with the Ganawagit COVID Task Force, and as well as politically, that the council was taking care of the issues with government in terms of there is agreements on childcare that exist in the community. Again, make sure that they back off and understand that that Ganawagit is not part of their jurisdiction. And so we've been dealing with some of the smaller issues like that throughout the pandemic, where again Quebec tries to impose what they think is right, for everybody. And that may work for their population, but it certainly doesn't always work for ours. And that's like some of the main concerns we talked about. Lisa talked about a little bit, because Quebec is moving at its own pace, and changing some of the rules of the game, so to speak, regarding distancing and about gathering. Even though they're still saying social distancing is key, but they're saying, well, now let's make it where you can group up to 10 people and such. That may be fine, and for them they're moving at their own pace. But in Ganawagit, we feel that we could be more conservative. Let's see what's happening with within Quebec. Let's see how well that goes, for them over the next few days, next week or so, on how much social distancing actually is taking place and what are the impacts from that decision. And then we can learn from that as a community as well. That's one good, I guess, tradition we have in our community. Our people are always very wise to the fact of let's watch what other people are doing and allow them to make some of the mistakes. And then we could certainly do our best to avoid those mistakes as much as we possibly can. So, bottom line there is, Quebec wants to move along on a path that they feel comfortable with, but they have a lot of other driving factors that such as economic and such that is pushing them forward. We have those same concerns in Kahnawake, and have been voiced very clearly by our many community members who are not involved in business. But we said from day one that the health and the science will always lead the way in decisions that we make, on behalf of Kahnawake. We also looked at some of the other areas of daycare, and we know with business scheduled to be reopening, and things start to progress. Obviously, people have young children, and how many people have their grandparents or parents who are the caregivers or the babysitters, and now a lot of times that's not going to be something that is doable at this point. So looking towards the youth center and also step by step on how they could go about assisting individuals in that case. So there's some work happening on there, but mind you, there are limitations on what they can do, because as well, even within those two organizations, they have to make sure that the children and the staff are safe, and you have to obviously maintain that physical distancing as much as they possibly can. And obviously, you can imagine with young children, it could be very difficult. One thing we also noticed over the past week is really, I guess, some of the I guess, frustrations of the community. We all been in this lockdown mode for some time, and everybody's feeling anxious. Everybody's feeling frustration. And I mentioned during the week as well. You can see some of the frustration coming out on people at work. Who are getting on each other's nerves. Much easier than they probably should. We see some comments on Facebook. Which creates a I guess a frenzy, for lack of a better term, like the one post that was out there that I'm sure many people have seen by now, when there was a post about the hospital and the Moochie's music, and that he wasn't able to perform out there, and then the comments started afterwards, and it was focuses on a task, all the best intentions for our entire community. Spent a lot of time this week also fielding questions and comments from community members on the next steps. They want to know what's our community going to look like after June 1st, if businesses will be open, and they're concerned for their personal safety, if there's more interactions with the outside and so on. So we spent a lot of time reassuring people that, again, too extreme of a danger versus the reality of a danger, and we're going to try to work and explain as best we can on some of the I guess some of the realities behind that. I guess moving forward in terms of the task force and these updates, and I'm sure some of you people are tired of seeing my face and Lisa, and maybe even Joe, but as you may have noticed over this week, yesterday we had Dwayne Zachary, and we had Arnold Lazar, and then today we had Brian Deere, Assistant Fire Chief, here on behalf of David Scott. But we want to try to bring more variety, of people who are either affiliated with the task force or even just community members as a whole, to come in and give some of their perspectives on how they see things and how this pandemic is impacting them. You've seen last week there was two elders that were interviewed, and those are some of the more things that we want to bring that to you more, because there's always not the big news that we come here to announce, so we want to try to bring a little more variety to the show, and that way people will be more in tune to continue watching, because we notice there is some lessening of viewership on this. So I think if we bring a little new flair and a little more variety, that people will want to tune in even more. you know, and we've seen some of the stuff with Dega Lazar. Is actually some entertaining stuff that he puts together, and so we're going to look at that moving forward as well. So no, it's been a short week, as Joe had mentioned, but it certainly was no less of no. You have to cram 4 days, 5 days of work into 4 days, and so I think everybody is a little bit tired, you know, and we're looking forward to a weekend where we could go home and recharge our batteries. I think the whole community could use a little bit of a recharge. So with that, I'm going to I thank you again for the overwhelming support and the message that of goodwill you sent towards the task force that we heard throughout the week. Despite some of the negativity, we also received plenty of positive comments, and I truly do appreciate that. And with that, have a great, safe weekend, and I'll see you again soon. On to go ahead.
We now return you to regularly scheduled programming and a look at news, weather, and sports with Jeremy Zaffron right here on K1037.
When we're out as well, at 103.7 FM, we are CKRK. K, Oscar the what now with Donna Asa FM, Ganawagi, so what happened today?
Nicho Wista A. It's 5 o'clock. Segu, good afternoon. From the K1 use of any fireworks and flying lanterns. Lieutenant Wize Stacy saying that the situation in Joy Rodu is in some ways even more serious because of the nature of the territory.
A lot of the vegetation there is coniferous. It's pine. There's spruce. It's already vegetation that naturally will burn regardless of the time of year. The vegetation that's up there, I've seen burned in January, and you don't expect to see something like that when you got 4 or 5 feet of snow on the ground already. So because of that fact, it's going to spread very, very quickly. And there's a lot of people up there right now. There's a lot of cabins that will be at risk. Without the available water, obviously it needs to be trucked in. So if you think of situations from a few years ago, like in California or in BC, say you're talking water bombers, you're talking truckload after truckload after truckload of water. And that's an extremely difficult situation. And if you think about it from a firefighter's perspective, we're already wearing multiple layers of gear, and now we're dealing with temperatures that are 30 degrees, 35 degrees out, and we have fire gear on that's designed to keep the heat in. So it can be very difficult for us.
Additionally, he says the burning of debris and brush should not be taking place during this time. Quebec Deputy Premier Geneviève Guilbeault and Culture Minister Nathalie Roy announcing today that as of May 29th, Quebec's museums, libraries, and drive-in movie theaters will be the first cultural activities to reopen in the province. Visitors will be asked to keep their distance from others in these locations with a limited capacity for libraries, where visitors will only be able to pick up and return items in a designated zone by the counter and not be able to browse the library aisles. Working at recording studios and the recording of concerts without an audience will also be able to resume with certain restrictions beginning June 1st. Today's provincial news conference was held in Montreal, the Canadian epicenter of the pandemic. Day camps will be opening up in Quebec this summer, but with strict measures. Meanwhile, sleepaway camps, they are being canceled. The task force have been studying previous pandemics and how to prevent it from getting out of control, such as the Spanish flu. Lisa Westaway, the executive director of the KMHC, she joined us on the Morning D on K1037.
But what are the lessons that we can learn from it? And for us, it's really the idea of being unprepared for that second wave, or having the impression that we're heading back to a normal, and that we can resume our lives the way they were before. And that's not the case. That's why we consistently talk about the new normal and having to live our lives differently and being prepared. So continuing to do the things that we're doing so that we avoid like an increased massive transmission of the virus.
As for gatherings of 10 people on the outside and only from 3 different households now being permitted by the province, Kahnawake COVID-19 task force saying they are not going to follow other government's rules. Arnold Lazar says that the task force makes decisions with the best interests of Kahnawake in mind.
We're trying to make decisions in an incremental way to ensure that health and safety is maintained. Once again, always juggling information from not only the provincial and federal, but the state and national U.S. government.
The town water and sewer services are being extended for residents of Bells Point, War Eagle Road, according to Chief Lindsay Labourne from the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. Labourne saying the project will take 22 weeks to develop at a cost of $1.3 million. It'll benefit approximately 25 to 30 homes and will be able to receive services depending on elevations and distance to the main line. Labourne, the lead on the infrastructure, transport, and operations portfolio, saying that engineers, they are working on the project right now with the road to be paved once the work to install the water and sewer pipes is completed. The starting date? That's yet to be determined. In Ganazatagi today, it'll mark day 3 of the checkpoints being set up to prevent people from accessing Oka Park, even though the park and all parks in Quebec are officially open. This is Grand Chief Serjotsi Simon.
They're basically just taking it day by day, and hopefully we come up with a political solution, because the Quebec government right now, like I said a while ago, haven't consulted us. The Minister of Indian Affairs had just simply sent a letter to all the chiefs of Quebec that the parks were going to be opening. But the parks that have an impact on First Nations, these First Nations like us, were not consulted at all. We needed questions answered. What's your safety protocol, and how is this going to affect us if people start wandering from the park and into our village or communities? And what powers did the SQ have to continue upholding? Let's say we have our state of emergency hasn't been lifted. Well, what are they going to do? We got a lot of questions on this, and nothing's being answered.
The checkpoints are up for the park's opening hours only, between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. The latest Quebec coronavirus case numbers has now increased to 46,141 positives, up by 646 patients from the day before. The death toll up by 65, now reaching 3,865. Meanwhile, in Canada, the number of positive coronavirus cases has reached 82,413. K1037 Market Watch, the S&P TSX, the Dow Jones, NASDAQ, and the S&P 500 all unchanged on the day's trade. Canadian dollar traded below 72 cents. In K1037 Sports, longtime Utah Jazz head coach and Hall of Famer Jerry Sloan died at the age of 78 due to complications from Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia. Two-time All-Star as a player, Sloan spent 23 years as head coach of the Jazz, where he led the team to 2 NBA final appearances, 7 division titles as well. He finished his career third most wins in NBA history with 1,221. And the Honda Indy Toronto has been canceled because of the pandemic. That announcement coming nearly a week after race promoters saying last Friday that the event would not be run on its original schedule dates of July 10th to 12th. Now that decision coming after the city announced it was canceling permits for major events and festivals for both July and August because of the pandemic. Your Ganawagi first weather forecast: clear overnight, low 12, sunshine tomorrow Saturday. It'll be gusty. The winds up to 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, high 22. Overnight low 11 degrees to Sunday, where the sunshine returns and a high of 27. For Monday, sun cloud mix and a high of 26. We lead local. From the K1037 newsroom, I'm Jeremy Zaffron.
CKRK-FM,
a Kahnawake radio station.
Today's K1037.